Firstly, thanks for having me at the Birmingham Retrofit Conference. My name is Gemma Brookes. I'm a Project Surveyor and Retrofit Coordinator here at Orbit. And today I'm here to discuss data and kind of the importance of it throughout the retrofit process. So first, I just wanted to touch upon a couple of the topics that I'll be discussing today. So firstly, why is data so important and where it can impact us in the business and in retrofit? Secondly, where is the data coming from? The various sources of data collection seen in housing. Thirdly, the benefit of blending data from different sources and helping us to make well-informed decisions. The evolving nature of data and how to avoid and the need to avoid stagnant data. And finally, the importance of data in retrofit from the start, so project implementation, all the way up to the finish line, to the completion. So why data? So why is data so vital? So it allows us to drive our programs. The replacement dates allow us a time when we complete installations and upgrades, and this has benefits on both a fiscal and from an embodied carbon perspective. Knowing the performance of the buildings at present can also help us create energy efficiency programs such as EPCC or up to net zero carbon. Data can help give assurance, so whether this is assurance to the business and how the stock is currently performing, whether this is assurance to external parties in how stock is performing from a standards perspective, or whether this is assurance to funders, allowing us to gain funding and borrowing against our buildings. It allows for accurate forecasting, so strong data allows for accurate knowledge of properties, and this should result in strong medium-term plans for properties, whether that's going up to EPCC or whether that's net zero carbon for 2050. Resulting in accurate forecasting and allowing the business to forward plan ahead for this investment piece. It can demonstrate success and building performance. So having the data to see how properties are currently performing and how this improves can really show success in how the business is moving forward. It can help demonstrate improvements and successes, whether this is Scope 3 emissions reductions or even things like EPCC improvements. So really thinking about their data, I've just quickly included this slide just to demonstrate the various sources of incoming data that we experience as housing providers. So whilst different areas of the business may be focusing on collating data for different purposes, there can be much overlap in the information that is being collated. Utilising all of these platforms allows greater insight to the property and allows us to deliver a well-rounded approach, whether this is to retrofitting or to the wider programmes. And by amalgamating the data we collate as a business while utilising all the various external data sources around us, it can allow us to make better, well-informed decisions for our properties and our programmes. So here I've just included an example of a Power BI tool that we've built here at Orbit, which does just that. The page brings together data from our internal asset management software, as well as external sources such as Google Maps, the EBC Government Database, My Maps, Parity Projects, as well as many others. The page allows us to view multiple data streams to make well-informed decisions, with all elements being updated quarterly to really allow us to make the best, well-informed decisions that we can for our properties and our programmes. And whilst building a tool like this is great, the success of it really does lie within keeping it present and truly reflective of the property. And with so much incoming data from different areas of the business, it is key to understand that the data is ever evolving. We must avoid utilising stagnant data and relying on this kind of information to formulate business decisions, as this can be quite risky. A great example of this is EPC data. So whilst it may be accurate at the point of survey, we all know that an EPC can be valid for up to 10 years. And so much could have changed with the property since that point of creating that survey. And therefore creating retrofit plans based on this can often create issues later down the line once a more recent and up-to-date retrofit assessment is conducted. However, saying this, it must also be recognised that just because it is new data does not always make it correct. It's important to review incoming data to make sure any updates are accurate and reflect the property. For instance, we at Orbit do this by acting as an informed client unit and reviewing any retrofit assessments and condition reports that are conducted before they move on to the next step in the retrofit process. And once we are happy with any incoming data, it's also vital to check that our plans and our programmes and our strategies are adapted to account for this or any changes that are flagged to us. As data changes and evolves, whether that's through increased accuracy or changes to the property, it's really important that we evolve too and have that ability to have that kind of dynamic change to the process. So how does all of this relate to creating and delivering a retrofit project? So data is crucial from project initiation all the way through to project completion, with data being collated and shared at each stage by the relevant parties. Project initiation, so firstly it's vital to understand the property stock. The current performance of the building, so again remembering to try and avoid that stagnant data sets where possible. The archetypes within the project, so whether it's flat, bungalow, semi-detached, and how these different archetypes may actually impact the project, the measures, and actually the requirements. Understanding the current heating systems, whether that is low carbon heating, what emitters are currently present, and what controls are also currently present. Understanding the tenure types, especially whether it's a block of flats and how this may actually impact what measures you can implement. And understand what the future scope is for this property. I think it's also vital at this stage to understand the investment plan for this property. So what components are due for replacement, which can potentially steer what components you will go through for the retrofit project. This makes sense not only from a fiscal perspective, because you're not shortening the component's life, it also helps to mitigate the impact on the property's NPV, but also from an embodied carbon perspective again, we're looking to maximise that component's lifespan before we look to upgrade it. We then want to understand the funding avenue that is, if this is being utilised, using the data on the property to understand whether the property fits the criteria of the funding, using modelling software such as Parity Projects to understand which measures will help you hit the KPIs, and thinking again about the component data. Does the funding actually complement this replacement? May sound a little bit silly, but actually if you're bringing components forward by a huge amount, actually the funding you may be getting may actually be just kind of equal to what you're already losing out. And project delivery. So incoming data through retrofit assessments, again a massive influx in data there, and I think it's really vital to really review what data is actually coming through and checking the accuracy of that data before kind of proceeding to the next steps. You'll be getting information from PIBIs, so from your contractor, information from other surveys such as the mechanical and electrical side, and other data forms such as things that the architects might use, such as Revit. So that's a kind of a common software used by architects, especially if external wall insulation is being utilised. And I think all of this information can be useful, but not only for now, but for the future of the property. So for instance, the basis of a BIM model can be that Revit model. So thinking ahead in how that data can be utilised and captured and potentially used in other areas of the business. And then finally, post-retrofit. So a large influx of data at this point. So post-retrofit EPC, again, a focus should be on reviewing that and making sure that that reflects the work that has taken place in this project. Looking at the relevant certification, so whether that's MCS certification or other elements such as that. And retrofit coordinator will be obviously collating a lot of this, and this will all be going through Trustmark. However, customers may ask for access to some of these, so just as I touched upon the MCS certificates, to help them with the PV export. Updating asset management software, so again, this is really vital for the kind of project completion. So capturing the work that has been conducted through the retrofit, capturing the standard of the work, so the depth of the insulation, the thickness of the external wall insulation, but also collating the warranties and manuals for what has been installed and all the hard work that has been going through this process. So hopefully today I've demonstrated the importance of data, not only in retrofit, but for housing in general and the various ways that it can be used and collated. I've discussed the evolving nature of it and the necessity for us as decision makers to also be dynamic with the changing data and respond to any changes that we see. I've discussed the importance of reviewing incoming data and really being that kind of informed client unit and that gatekeeper when data is incoming. I've demonstrated the ability and the benefits of also blending data and how that can help to make well-informed decisions, not only in retrofit, but for our planned programmes. So I hope this has been useful. Thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. And thank you again.